Well, personally, I feel like this is a great way to start the video. This is happening every time I try to join a lobby today. Well, I was hoping I could get into a lobby in this video with some of my friends to actually, drive around and race with some of the homies, as we're setting up a GT3/endurance race for this weekend. If you guys are around, make sure you guys tune in, twitch.tv/MxgicIQ. I'll leave a link down below in the description to the Google Doc with all the rules. Those are the current cars we've been using a lot and trying to balance at this time, so I hope you guys appreciate that. I'm going to try and put on an event for the community every week and try and do our best here to keep this game alive, because I believe personally the narrative around it for some reason is that it's dying, and problems like that probably add to it. And the other issue you guys saw when I was joining the lobby, there's been incredibly bad stutters and lag recently, and also this game just has a little bit of a desync issue. But at the end of the day, this is still a very, very good racing game and is giving us a lot of good content. Now, I'm going to start this video off with some negative stuff, but I want to obviously preface everything with, I believe this game is in a very good place and is moving in the right direction. I think the community is doing what they can, and the developers are listening to a degree. We got an entire map that mobile didn't even get, which is the Nürburgring/Sunset Ring you guys see us racing on most of the time on stream, and we're going to be hosting the endurance race for about 10 laps. It's going to be a fun time. It's a very technical and well-made track and has some of probably the best track design I've seen in a video game in a long time. Me personally, I haven't had this much fun on a racing track in a very long time, and that's just me being honest, man. I think this is a great track. I think they're doing a lot of good stuff for the community, but the problem with them as well is that they don't actually reach out and communicate with their community. They might do a good job listening, but damn, these stutters, bro. But their communication and their lack of, I guess you could say, interest in seeming to be responsive to their community is very low. It doesn't seem like they really care about their international community when it comes to communicating. And one other point I wanted to touch on before we start talking to the homie Fuzz and Dano is about the deluxe edition of this game being a quote-unquote scam, and I wanted to talk about that because a lot of people are kind of talking about that recently, and I want to address something another content creator named Dub said in his video, who I've actually been watching for a very long time, since Gran Turismo 6 drift tutorial, so I very much do respect his opinion. But I think what he said was kind of a little bit also rude to some people, but also just not kind of grounded in an area that makes sense. So this game sells a deluxe edition for a cheaper price of like $1 more, which is a little crazy for people to be complaining about, but I do understand where their concern comes from. Essentially, all deluxe edition games sold for pretty much any other game publisher gives you seasonal access to new content and things like that, at least for the first season of the game, okay? 99% of the time, including CarX DRO, from what I'm aware of, okay? If that's not true, please let me know. But another issue is, if you guys actually bought the CarX Street Deluxe Edition on the CarX website, you guys can actually claim the upcoming DLCs. But if you bought it on Steam, you're unable to do this. And that's a clear communication issue and a discrepancy between the versions that you're selling, where you did not mention that online anywhere. So that's unfair to the players that bought it on Steam, not even knowing that you're probably selling it on your website, because your communication is just extremely lackluster, and we're going to continue talking about that today. Now let's continue to talk about these issues with the homie Fuzz. Let's get straight into it. And I've talked with a few people about this pretty often, and I think the problem is just simply probably, the Discord ban in Russia, things like that. But I'm pretty sure a few of those moderators just VPN, and their Discord server is just an absolute mess, so they just probably don't check it whatsoever or even know where to look. But long story short, man, the communication needs to be a lot better. And to start the communication, I'm going to talk to a few of my friends today that also stream the game and have hundreds of hours in it. And we're going to talk to them and ask what they think needs to be added to the game in order to continue to make it a more positive and fulfilling experience for everyone. And a couple points I just want to touch up on as well, I want to discuss with them. So let's get straight into it, man. Let's talk with some of the homies, Dano, Fuzz, all from Yanaka. So make sure you guys check them out. Link down below in the description, and let's get straight into it. All right, so I'm back in the call with some of the boys right now. Dano's just stepped away for a second, but I'm here with the homie Fuzz. Fuzz, was good?
Yo, chillin'.
Yo, chillin', okay. So we were actually just talking about the stability of the game currently, and Fuzz, you had some input on that currently, because honestly, I'm getting so many stutters right now just driving around after the update.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah, it's super stuttery. Notice that when you drop onto the dirt in any of the DLC area, you'll drop down to like 5 frames per second, or up to like 3 seconds, to be honest.
And to be honest, and this is something I want to touch on just so people know, I feel like a lot of people that complain about optimization don't really have good rigs, but let the people know what you're running so they understand that it's definitely not a hardware issue.
I've got a Ryzen 7 7800X 3D and a 4080 Super.
Yeah.
So should not be having any issues at all.
Yeah, shouldn't be having any issues at all. And as you guys can see, I mean, the game's rather consistent otherwise. Like, I'm getting 60 FPS with a lot of reshade filters on right now, but the game's still having crazy stutters. And I'm not on as good of a rig, but I got a 3070 i7 12700K, so I should be definitely okay to run this game without any stutters or frame drops, considering I can run pretty much every other AAA studio game, but this one just for some reason gives me issues. So where do you think they could improve on to make sure that people don't like leave the game, so to say, or kind of get rid of the narrative that everybody thinks the game is somewhat dead? Do you think it starts with the community or the developers communicating, or?
I feel like it's a big part at the moment, a big part with more of the larger streamers just forcing negativity onto their viewers, because obviously they have a lot of people coming in that are looking for a new game and they're really interested in this because it's just getting posted everywhere. And you join in, you just hear someone say that the game's dead for no reason, just because it's unstable at times, which is just optimization. It comes with time, like they'll fix it.
Yeah.
I just feel like that needs to stop.
Or maybe even some streamers that we've seen purposely going into multiple big streamer streams trying to downplay the game and talk badly about it, right?
Yeah, it's all in the same thing, yeah.
It seems like some people have like a narrative that they want to push. Like they feel better about themselves pushing the narrative that the game is dead instead of just, you know, appreciating it for what it is, or if you just don't like it, just don't play it. I don't really understand the mentality of going to the game that you dislike and purposely trying to discredit it every single day. That's just personally not something I agree with, but people are doing it. Now, it's not to say that this game is perfect. I think this game does have a plethora of issues. And I want to talk about the DLC real quick because it's probably the newest thing that's came out recently. And I think a lot of people are excited about it, but I think this is where a lot of people are kind of conflicted. And I wanted to get your point of view on it as well as Dano's when he comes back, because I know he's kind of on one side of the aisle when it comes to that. But how do you feel about people having to pay in order to even access the track? I want to get your point of view on that before I speak on it.
Accessing it's a bit unfair, but they are coming from a mobile phone game background, which they're accustomed to having, you know, microtransactions and everything. But yeah, I definitely think that the track at least should be free. It was a big update that they forced everyone to do. I feel like it's unfair, especially for the guys, you know, 12 gigabyte update just for nothing.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair either, but I also understand the narrative that everybody says, you know, it's a smaller studio and they're trying to, you know, get money so they can fund the game and stuff like that, and that's great. I just want to see a lot more stuff then. If that's the whole narrative behind it, I'm going to want to see more map expansions, which you can already see looking at the map that they've already added textures that look like they're going to go ahead and continue increasing. This was not here before, so I think we can look forward to some bigger map expansions in the future. So it's looking like a bright future for this game in my personal opinion. Textures are changing. It seems like they're setting up for a big increase in the future, so hopefully that is true to narrative. I hope that's the actual fact behind it. But the problem is when you add big expansions like this that completely change the game, I think most streams have spent 90% of their time at this track, if not Sunset Speedway. That makes a whole portion of the player base feel not cared about or left out. And the whole thing, I kind of want to preface this and head into the pay to win part. I think there was another thing that's been going around recently about the pay to win cars, mainly starting with the drift vehicles, and for some reason that narrative is leaked over to these newer cars as well. And people complaining about leaderboard stuff. So I'm going to talk about the time attack stuff, and then I want to get Fuzz's point of view on the drift stuff, because the drift prototype cars, I don't think those are pay to win necessarily, but I do think it's unfair, and I want to see what he has to say about it. But I want to first talk about the pay to win cars from this update. So everybody's talking about, if you look at the leaderboards, the cars that are now being added to the game are just running them. There is one car in this top 10 that is from the DLC, and it is the same guy that was actually in stream last night. He's ridiculous. He's just super fast in general, and he is extremely fast in that car. Rear wheel drive, most of the people on this leaderboard are all wheel drive. It's the only car really in the top 10 that's rear wheel drive. And this is the only guy that you'll see on multiple leaderboards, especially on the new track, even using the new car. There's one other person here, and his is all wheel drive. There's maybe, you know, one person on this one. So the Evo is still running the leaderboards, and that's a free car in the game essentially to access, okay? You're not really going to have too many issues, as you can see right here, with people using the new cars for these leaderboards. And to be honest with you guys, I'm not saying, you know, that I'm not calling you guys stupid, because I saw another creator's video, Dubs. I think he was trying to get the same point across, but I don't think insulting is the way. But at the same time, the honest truth is, most of you guys that are complaining about pay to win are not getting top 100. You're not getting top 10. So if you're complaining about it, man, honestly, the leaderboards, it's just for little money and like gold here and there, and maybe a couple mystery cars that you can just make liveries for. Just maybe do them for fun, or just to challenge yourself. Maybe stop worrying about pay to win stuff when you're probably not even in the conversation of getting to that position anyway. These guys that are now in the top 10 are just trying to use different cars to battle each other, because they've all just been using the Evo. So I think pay to win isn't necessarily a thing in this game. And if we're going to talk about pay to win, Need for Speed's cars that have been meta for the last like 3 updates were all paid in the battle pass. So that's another thing. That's a thing across all games. And the best car on the leaderboard is still the Evo. So now getting back into the drift stuff, I wanted to talk to you, Fuzz. What do you think about the drift like leaderboard, or I guess thing situation where people are saying that in the future there might be drift events where these pay to win cars become a thing? What do you think currently about them right now as they sit with the prototype parts?
I haven't really tested them too much. I gave the 180 a go today, actually. I don't think they're honestly all that. Like, it honestly always comes down to tuning with those kind of cars. Sure, you've got extra lock and the motors are faster from stock, but most of the time you're going to be modifying the stock cars anyway. And putting a tune that obviously comes down to preference. That's the most important part with drifting. Like, everyone can run a completely different setup and all do the same stuff. I don't feel like it is really pay to win, but at the same time, if they do add in leaderboard stuff, I guess more angle means more points. So we'll just have to wait and see where that goes.
Yeah, I think that is a thing. I think also if they add leaderboards, maybe they just make it so that you can't use DLC cars on them. But I also want to say, when it comes to the prototype stuff, I think that was just a bad move in general, adding parts to the game that are only accessible via paying money. Cars is a different thing. If you add cars to the game that cost money, I think I get that. But when it comes to car parts, I just think that's a line that shouldn't be crossed. I think it should be available to all players and should be able to be paid to be accessed to quicker, but maybe you make it super expensive in the game, something even stupid like maybe 1,000 street coin, but people can grind for it and get those prototype parts for their cars if they really wanted to. Because now, with the way your economy is set up, since they've done a great job at adjusting the economy, you could probably get 1,000 street coins in a day if you were to really try super hard and just grind all the events and drift around with your buddies. And free roam tandeming seems to be the best way to even get stuff right now anyway, but we still have to deal with the server issue where for some reason I'm getting kicked out of servers and 900 ping and stuttering all the time. But people being able to access the track though should not be a question. So hopefully they fix that. I wouldn't even care if I paid for it already and they allow everybody to access, because I think it should be available for the entire community. I'd like to know your guys' opinions down below in the comments as well, so please feel free to jump in on the conversation and let's talk about these things. Alright, so we finally managed to get into an online lobby here, so we're just going to get some practice in. We're both in the Dano AMG, Team Dano AMG. This thing's looking nice. He did a great job with this. But I got my boy Dano here now, so I wanted to talk about the livery system. Because that's kind of been a little bit of an issue in the community as well. We've been asking for this livery system for a while, and we finally got it, but I think it has a couple issues. So, Dano, I wanted to get your point of view on some of the issues with the livery editor and what you think about the livery editor, like UV mapping issues and things like that.
I love when I go into the livery editor, I get done making a livery, and then you come out the styling shop, then random pieces of vinyl everywhere that you didn't see when you're in the editor. Then you have to go back in and then come back out to see if you fixed it or not.
And then go back in again
help.
And see something else pop
Also
up.
doesn't help. Also doesn't help. No, you know, on some cars, like some of the newer cars, you'll be going on the windshield, and then it'll be like, I don't know what it is, but like it'll show up somewhere else as well. Like with the McLaren has it really bad on the front windshield.
Interesting. So, yeah, and then also, Dana, I wanted to ask you, because I think you were one of the only people that said I think it's fine that they charge for the track, because I think me and Fuzz are on the side that the track should be free. What was your point of view on that? Would you think the track you'd rather it be free, or what was your reasoning for understanding why it costs money?
It'd be nice if it was free, of course, but like, I mean, I played Forza for years, and you gotta pay like for literally everything in that game, basically. Anything really new, unless it's coming in a weekly thing.
I think one other thing people were talking about in the other video and comment a lot on YouTube is about how bad the mobile economy is in regards and in comparison to the PC economy, which I think that's just the nature of mobile gaming. I think mobile gaming's always just going to cost unnecessarily amounts of money in order to progress. All mobile gaming is literally pay to win because everything's free. All right, now I want to ask both you guys. I guess I'll start with Dano, and then we'll go with Fuzz. I want to ask you guys what you guys think they should do in the future to continue to grow the player base and, I guess, genuinely save the game. Although I think it's not even alive yet, considering it hasn't even released on console, and we're still yet to see the most popular days of this game. But what do you guys think they could do to increase the player base exponentially in a short amount of time?
Honestly, I think they just need to add more DLC, more map expansion. I really love the cars we have. There's some that we're missing in terms of like JDM stuff, more high-end stuff for like racing, but just more cars and more map. I think that'll just bring more to it. We're adding like a Ebisu-like complex or some shit.
Yeah, I think we were talking about that on stream last night. That'd be a dope next map expansion. Something like an Ebisu complex. Or like East Toge up in the hills, but leading to it you're going through Kami Road. That would be fire. I'd pay $10 for that happily. No problem. Fuzz, what about you, boss? What do you think?
The most important part is communication. Obviously, it's hard for them because Discord's been banned in Russia. So they don't have to go through Twitter or something, but communication and consistent hotfixes, to be honest. Like the state that the servers are in right now definitely needs to be addressed sooner than later to keep people playing the game. But yeah, like Dano said, definitely content like map-wise, or even just bring cars back.
I agree with both of their points. And I guess me personally, what I'd like to see, being that I play on wheel, I think it's ridiculous that we don't have the same onboarding settings, aka like the onboard, like with the camera settings in the cockpit that we have on DRO. I think a spectator mode instantly would make the game better. There's a few very small things that are just quality of life changes that would significantly increase the amount the community can do to help the game succeed. For example, I could host a lot more comps without the stress of having to figure out camera positions and debate on whether I'm even going to race in the race in order to make the video interesting or whatever it is, because we don't have a spectator mode. So if we were able to add that, as well as some quality of life changes to how the player sits in the cockpit, being able to look around in the cockpit, things like that are just very simple quality of life changes that would make the game so much better. It's honestly cool to see a vanilla game have all this content in it, and I think when it releases to consoles, that's going to be the say-all be-all and see how much people actually love this game, because I was actually looking at the player charts with the homie NTNS when we were on his stream of CarX Drift Online, and that game also spiked, obviously, even on Steam charts when console released. So I think that's going to be the one that pretty much brings this game to light, and people just need to come together and stop being so, negative around a game that's honestly amazing. I said this in my last video and I'll say this again. I think this is one of the first games to properly integrate good drifting, good circuit racing, great customization, and good balancing to a game. It's a lot of fun. This game has everything you would want out of a racing game, and it's all done extremely proper. So hopefully these little issues and quality of life changes can make the game extremely great in an extremely short amount of time. If they were to just listen to their community and communicate better, it would help a whole lot. So thanks to the boys Dano and Fuzz for being a part of this video. You guys got to check them out. Link down below in the description. And again, we're going to be doing that GT3 race next weekend, so all info will be linked down below in the description. You guys can pop out to the Twitch, twitch.tv/MxgicIQ, or any of the other boys' Twitch channels, and we will probably be doing some kind of drifting events or practice leading up to all this stuff we're trying to host here at Yanaka Faction. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in. So MxgicIQ, and I'm out. Peace.